Hi there BookTube, it's Eleanor here and it's time for a book haul. So I realised that on my channel I do quite a lot of book hauls. I buy quite a lot of books, but I wanted to try something a little bit different. If you watched my video recently on Kitty G's channel, on Caitlin's channel, she had a 3-year anniversary video up where we were discussing BookTube and our channels. It was myself, Caitlin and Mercedes. And one of the things that I've been toying with and thinking about recently is I don't want to necessarily diversify my content because I enjoy doing hauls, I enjoy buying books, I enjoy reviewing the books that I read on a weekly basis, and I like the various different things I do. But I want to sort of challenge myself and push myself a little bit more to learn a bit more about the editing software I use. Now, I'm not buying expensive editing software, I just use the iMovie app, but I want to sort of try and just get as much as I can out of it and utilise the things that are on offer. So one of the things that I would like to do is to start showing you a bit more in detail some of the books if I think that they warrant it, and just playing around with voiceovers and stuff. So you will be seeing my face in this video, but there'll be sort of a bit of, hopefully, if this works, a little bit of looking at the books closer up as well. We'll see what happens. And something else that I've really been enjoying, and again I've seen this on various channels but also on Caitlin's channel, is recently she made a video about SFF authors that she wanted to read, and she read the first pages of the books and I really enjoyed that. It really gave me a feel for how the book might go. So what I want to do is I want to tell you less, so I'm not going to read the blurbs of all these books that I have got recently, but I'm going to tell you a very one sentence about what I believe the book to be about, and then I'm going to read you the first page while we're hopefully doing some stuff with editing. So if you saw the thumbnail for this, you'll know that one of the books that I was really excited to get was Tom Fletcher's The Christmasaurus. I bought this myself, I pre-ordered it. I love Tom Fletcher and his family, and I love the books that they all write, and I was just really excited about this. It's Christmassy, which I absolutely love. I'm a massive Christmas fan, and it sounds like a book that I'm going to enjoy now, and one that in not too long, you know, maybe a year or two, my daughter's gonna love. So I really wanted to pick this up and read it now for me, so that I can then enjoy the experience of reading it to her in a year or two's time. So from what I can gather about this, it's about a little boy called William Trundle. It's about his dad, an elf, Santa Claus, and a mean girl and a dinosaur. So let's see what the first page brings. So the first thing that we see is a cast list, so we know who we're having our adventure. Prologue. The end of the dinosaurs. This story starts like all good stories do, a long time ago. Not just a long time ago, but a very long time ago. Squillions of years ago, in fact. Not long before your granny and your granddad were born, before there were any human beings at all, before cars and aeroplanes, even before there was the internet. And there was something even better. Dinosaurs! Dinosaurs were the most awesome creatures ever to walk the planet. There were lots of them, and they came in all shapes and sizes. There were small ones that were not much bigger than dogs or cats, some with spiky prickle horns on their backs. There were stupendously ginormous ones called Seismosaurus that were longer than 5 double-decker buses, with necks thicker than tree trunks and skin like the hard rubber tyres of a tractor. I know that sounds hard to believe, but it's definitely true, because this is a book, and books don't lie. I already know I'm going to love this. It just sounds really brilliant. I'm really excited to try this one out, and I will let you know how I get on when I read it. Next up are a couple of graphic books which I was very kindly gifted by the lovely Caitlin. The first is called The Journey, and this is by Francesca Sana, and this is published by Flying Eye Books. So for this one, I'm not going to read you the front page because obviously it's a graphic novel and so it wouldn't work quite so well, but I'm going to show you a little bit in the book and tell you a little bit about what it's about. The back says, what it is like to leave everything behind and travel many miles to somewhere unfamiliar and strange. A mother and her 2 children set out on such a journey, one filled with fear of the unknown but also great hope. Based on her own interactions with people forced to seek a new home and told from the perspective of a young child, Francesca Sana has created a beautiful and sensitive book that is full of significance for our time. So I'm really excited to try out the journey and see what I think. And the second one was Giant Days Volume 1 by Alison Treman and Kogar. And I've heard lots of good things about this one and I just can't wait to try it out and see for myself. The story is about three girls going to university, wanting to reinvent themselves, and we're following them in this journey. And I think it sounds quirky and fun and very relatable. Next up are some books I was lucky enough to be sent by the publisher, so thank you very much to them for that. The first one is Of Sand and Malice Made by Bradley Bolio. This is a novella, I believe, which comes maybe before or tells the story of one of the characters from 12 Kings, which I really enjoyed, so I can't wait to get stuck into this one. The story is about Cedar. She's a young pit fighter. She's known as the White Wolf and is undefeated, and it's her story. Cedar found Brammer by the river. She watched from within a stand of cattails where she hankered low, cool river water lapping at her ankles. Brammer was playing in the water with a dozen other gutter wrens. Playing? Apparently without a care in the world after he'd nicked her purse. She felt the anger roiling inside her like a pot boiling over. He'd probably come straight here to brag to his friends and show them what he'd done and challenge them to do the same, then demand tribute like some paltry lord of mud and fleas. A lot of them were playing skipjack along the Hadder's muddy banks. One by one, boys and girls would run to the lip of the bank and leap into a grimy piece of canvas pulled taut as a drum by 7 or 8 of the older children, who would then launch the little ones into the air. They would flail their arms and legs mid-flight, screaming or yelling before splashing like stones into the Hadder. Water sprang like diamonds in the dry desert heat. I'm excited. Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one, and I love that it is a hardback without a dust jacket because I think they're really pretty. Next up is an author I haven't read anything by yet, and he is quite prolific, and that is Revenger by Alistair Reynolds. I saw Alistair talk at the Galance Festival recently, and this book just sounded like it would be right up my street. I believe it's a space opera in its sort of genre, I suppose, and or subgenre of science fiction, and I love me some space opera. Now, this is blurbed as being good for fans of Star Wars and Firefly, and they're two of my favourite things, and that's really, really setting the bar high, so I'm really hoping that I will enjoy this one. It's about a crew on a ship. It's their sort of job, or what they go out and do is they try and find hidden worlds and sort of crack all the booby traps around them to get in to discover hidden technologies and relics and prized possessions, I suppose. So let's see what we think of the writing. Chapter 1, Rackamore. Adriana had always hated Dr. Morsenks. He'd been the family physician since our parents landed on Mazaril before we were born. He'd been there as Adriana and I grew up, and he'd been there when the plague took our mother. The plague was what turned my father against men like Captain Rackamore, because he reckoned they were meddling in things that were better off being locked up. But as far as I know, no one ever proved the plague came out of a bauble. None of that stopped him from being talked into a stupid investment in exactly the thing he disapproved of. He was like that, easily persuaded against his own judgment, and it came to a head at the Hall of History one Forge Day evening in spring 1799. Father had gone to see what had come of his investment, and because he wanted to make good showing among the moneyed bigwigs in the Mazaril Chambers of Commerce, he'd brought both of us along for the evening. We were meant to be on our best behaviour, prim and proper, educated young ladies. Adriana wasn't having any of it. Dr. Morsenks, called Father, noticing the family physician a few tables away. Come and join us. It's been too long since you've seen Adriana and Arafura. Look how much they've grown. Well, we can't gather too much from that yet, but certainly it seems like it's going to be of a writing style that I will enjoy. And the next one is Heart of Granite, which again I was sent by the publisher, and I think this is a proof copy. so it may not look like this when it's finished. This is by James Barclay, and it's the story of a world where it's become a battleground in a war, where it's a bit of a stalemate. No side is currently winning. I think we follow a sort of hunter-killer pilot called Max, so let's see how we think of the writing of this one. Chapter 1. I don't remember getting the tap on the shoulder at school or the walk to the principal's office alongside the recruitment agents in their ERC uniforms, but I do remember the dripping jealousy in the faces of everyone I passed, and I will never forget how cool it was. Maximus Holleram. Max was woken by an insistent nagging at the back of his mind. It probably wasn't important. He let his head drop back to the pillow and stared at the ceiling where the dim ridge lights flickered in time with the whir of the increasingly inefficient air circulation system. Outside his pod, the squad rack was quiet. No one else was awake, let alone up. Not like me to wake up early, muttered Max. Don't you read your pings? Annabeth was lying on her stomach with her head turned away and the sheet clinging to the lines of her body. Max drew a finger down her spine and she rose on her elbows, her long black hair falling either side of her face. He grinned, sliding down next to her and leaning in for a kiss. Not if I can avoid it. Are you kidding me? Annabeth put a hand on his face and pushed him away. You were at the briefing last night, right? I wonder why you're still here. Because... So yeah, again, a writing style that I think I'm going to enjoy, and definitely one that I'd be intrigued to get started with. And then just one more to go, and that is When the Floods Came by Claire Morrell. And again, I was sent this one by the publisher. I love the cover of this one. So I'm intrigued by this one. It's set in Birmingham. It's about a 22-year-old girl. She lives in a desolate block of flats which has mainly been evacuated, or people have left to go to Brighton because this virus has been sort of plaguing the city and a lot of the population. There's plenty of food. She can get online still. There's still Wi-Fi, and there's a flood every year, so they get plenty of rain, and she's about to meet a fiance, I think. So it sounds intriguing. Let's see what we think of the first page. Chapter 1. It's a late afternoon in August. Dense clouds hover overhead, signposting an end to the suffocating heat of summer. I'm standing on the steps at the entrance to the Birmingham Art Gallery, looking out over the amphitheatre of Chamberlain Square, examining the neo-Gothic tower which only partially resembles its online image. The pool at the base, where small fountains once bubbled charmingly and prevented the water becoming stagnant, is now filled with mud, home for a profusion of marigolds and nettles. Vicious brambles are snaking their way up the tower, gripping it tightly, claiming yet another conquest on their path to world domination. The outline of the surrounding architecture, blurred by a cloak of moss, is pleasing. In my head I can hear Poppy's voice, dark, quiet, typically grave. Rosa, is this wise? I really don't know. It can't still be against the law to be here. We both know it probably is. Well, nobody's going to enforce it, so what does it matter? You should be guided by more than law. Common sense should play a part. He's a literalist. He prefers to think in the present. He'll occasionally go backwards, but refuses to go forwards. I've got no time for his attitude. I'm 22. The future is ahead, and I have no intention of missing any of it. I'm wearing rose-coloured skinny trousers that are wearing thin at the knees, trainers, a greyish velvet jacket worn smooth with age, and a brown woolly hat. I'd like a smarter jacket, but I make do with what I can get these days. I can't summon the dedication of my sister Delphine, who spends hours, sometimes days, hunting for quality clothes. Yeah, so far it sounds like it's going to be an interesting one, and I always love me a little bit of a dystopian world, so we shall see. So hopefully you've enjoyed this different way of doing a book haul. It's given you a bit of an insight into the books, into the writing style. It certainly made me more excited about most of these. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Bye for now, BookTube.